to reconnect. You are live.
Yeah, so we're on right now?
You're on right now with
We are
Joe
on right
Scalia.
now. Oh yeah, there it is. Live right now with Joe Scalia. I gotta lower his volume.
That's right, otherwise we're talking to ourselves.
Well, yeah, I do that anyway.
I did that for 33 years.
I'm sure somebody, one or two might have listened.
Yeah, they were.
Hi everybody, welcome to Tuesday night. I am Tony, and that is Joe Scalia right there.
Scalia now.
Scalia?
Yes, that's the right pronunciation.
All right.
But you can call me Scalia.
Back then, known as Scalia. You know, it's interesting you say that though, because it's weird for, I don't know if a lot of people go through this, but to talk to former teachers, it's like I can't, it's hard for me to say, hey Joe, thanks for coming on. Like I still, it just naturally for me to say Mr. Scalia's here.
Well, I want you to call me Mr. Scalia. I'll tell you, the name situation, my father.
Was Mr. Scalia too?
No,
Oh,
he
no?
was Scalia. My father and his brother married my mother and her sister. And we grew up in the same house in Brooklyn. So my father was Joe Scalia. My mother was Peggy Scalia. My Uncle Tom was Tom Scalia. My Aunt Anna was Ann Scalia. So throughout school, I just kind of followed that Scalia thing.
That's almost a southern thing going on
Yeah.
there, you know, almost. Wow. So let's say hi to people. Brian Fester is watching. Hello, Brian. Good to see you watching us again. Brian was away for a while. Jay Mund is watching.
Hey, Jay, how are you?
No, since Jay is watching, let's talk about Jay for a
Okay,
second.
let's talk about it. She's got 2 book reports she owes me.
Oh, is that right?
Two.
Now, what was, I don't know how recent these photos are, but there's a photo of her with you and Miss Stay. Jay is wearing a tiara, and she's like kissing you. Miss Stay looks like she wants to get the hell out of there, actually. I don't know. You have any idea what I'm talking about?
Maybe it was a birthday party, I don't know.
Oh, it was her birthday party?
Could have been.
She said she's been waiting all day for this.
Well, what we do is we meet on Friday and we paint, and sometimes Jay comes over.
Oh, is that right?
And she brings the.
I bet she does. Oh, and Jimmy Haas is watching.
Jimmy Haas, hey Jimmy, I owe you lunch.
Yeah, and of course he's looking to get into politics.
No.
We're not going there, Jimmy.
No.
I know you and Jimmy.
I keep my politics to myself. I never express that.
Just every 5 minutes on Facebook.
Jimmy likes to provoke, but Jimmy's all right.
George Kasubas is watching. Hi, George.
Hey, George, that's a name I remember.
You do know? Yeah, they were. I think. Yeah, George had an older brother, if I remember right. George graduated with me. He's actually one of my guests next week. Jay Munn says hello. Oh, yes, it was her 50th birthday.
Right.
And Scott Crosby is awake. That's good to know. Terry Frattini is here. Sally's sister Cindy is watching. Bobby Sen is watching.
Terry just became my Facebook friend.
Oh, yeah?
Hi,
Terry Frattini?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's good people.
She's awesome.
She's good people.
Lori O'Neill is watching.
Wow. All three O'Neill sisters are watching. All right, well, yeah, a bunch of Hicksville people are watching. Matt Mongelli, Bobby Sen, Scott Crosby. Scott Crosby wants to say thank you for compelling us to learn the alphabet backwards.
Oh, ZYXWV, UTSR, QPO, NNOK, JHDFEBCBA.
Kevin, Mr. Scalia just did the alphabet backwards, I heard.
Wow. All right, and what would be the reason for that?
The reason for that is I thought I would learn it backwards. If someone ever said to me, if you can say the alphabet backwards in less than a minute, I will give you money. So no one has ever asked me.
While burping.
Yeah.
Wow. So nobody ever.
No one has ever asked.
Has anybody? Any of you guys Anybody ever give you money for doing the alphabet backwards? Wow. Did you know Ms. Witzel at Dutch Lane?
No.
She taught us to do the times table. We were able. She was a 3rd grade teacher. We were able to do 100 multiplication problems in a minute. She taught us to do that. Madeline Witzel.
I knew the name, but
Yeah.
now we would see the elementary school people and the high school people at the beginning of the school year,
Like a welcome back orientation.
And then we didn't run into each other.
Oh, okay. She was great. Well, this is Joe Scalia. He's got a book, one of a few books, but this is the latest book, UFSD 71. This school may look familiar to some of you here. Retired 21 years.
I'm in my 21st, yeah.
And great English teacher in the Hicksville district, mostly in the junior high, sometime in the high school as well. But since retirement, gotten into, well, actually this book is an interesting story.
Yeah.
Because you started it
in 1971.
1971, started the book, and it just came out actually just within the past month.
January 1st.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brand. I didn't realize it was that brand new.
You can smell the new on it.
Now that you say it, I can. And I see Rob Dirks is, he did a little blurb on the back for all you Hicksville people. There was like 1,800 Dirks, so all of you guys know them.
Rob was very instrumental in actually encouraging me, because he was the first person that read the manuscript.
Wow.
I mean, I had read it, and he read it, and he said, yeah, finish it, do it.
Well, all right, yeah, so what's the story there? How did you started in 1971, you said?
1971, I was on sabbatical. Teaching was a temporary job. Okay, when I started in 64, I figured I'd do 5 years, then I'd write a best-selling book. I'd be on the Johnny Carson show. I'd drive a Porsche 911. I would date very attractive models. Of course, I wouldn't say anything to my wife. And 33 years later, I was still teaching. But I started the book, I put it aside, I went back to it, I started it again, I rewrote it. Every time there would be a hiatus, I would have to go back to page 1 and I have to start again, go back to page 1 and start again.
Sure.
And finally I had an impasse and I just kind of left it. And when I spoke to Rob and a couple other people, they said, just do it, just get it on the computer and do it. So that's what I did the last couple of years I spent. And this past year, I actually finished it in August. And then it took until now to get the thing published.
Nice. So you have the Porsche outside then? Now that this is done?
I can't fit in a Porsche now.
There's some butter. We'll get you in there. That's great. But you've had other books though. It's not like you've been working on this all these years.
My first book. This is the first book that I wrote. The first book that I published was Freaks, which takes place in Vanderbilt Junior High School.
Okay.
On Long Island. And then Pearl, which was a sequel to Steinbeck's The Pearl, which I taught forever, which you probably never read. Yeah.
I don't remember what I read.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Lehan. Sorry, Mr. Hardowitz and all the other English teachers. I don't remember what I read. Now you can pass the sobriety test. I don't know what Jane means by that. Jimmy Haas says actually you have. He wants to know if you took the convertible. He says you have a mean ride. What are you riding?
I have a little Miata. It's the poor man's Porsche.
The sobriety test is sometimes when they pull you over, they'll ask you to do the alphabet backwards.
Oh, that's right.
So,
thank you, Jay.
So that was probably Scott Crosby because he said that he's been asked that.
Oh, all right. We got people. Janine Camage Birdie. Can't wait to read it. So where can they find it? Amazon or?
Amazon, right. It's in paperback. It's a great workout book. You don't have to read it. All you have to do is kind of lift it. You know? I know you guys don't read. I know you didn't read those books in my class. You think I didn't know?
I read all the books.
Just quickly for a second, Terry Fertini is saying she can't hear anything.
I know, but she's the only
She's
one
the only
saying
one?
that, so we're just going to go with...
Last year.
That was him, that wasn't me.
Bobby said that the Miata equals the Barbie dream car.
It is. My son says it's a chick car. So.
My friend Brian Fresta, who's down in Florida, he went to Sachem. He had to read The Pearl, he says.
Great book.
I love The Pearl.
Several people, I'm getting you in trouble, but several people now are demanding, not only they do want the book, but they want signed copies. So
Oh, yeah, sure.
There you go.
I'll do that.
All right. A lot of people are asking for them.
What'll happen is someone bought me this copy. So this is the only copy that I have. But I ordered books, which I probably won't get for maybe a month and a half. and then they'll be available on my webpage, which is my name in lowercase, Joseph E. Scalia or Scalia, no spaces, .com, and you can see watercolors, you can see the books and stuff. At some point in time, you'll be able to order this, but you can't do it now because I don't have it. And it's cheaper than Amazon.
Oh, to go through your website?
It would be, yeah, it'd be
Oh,
cheaper.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so keep going back to that website to check, and I'll post the link
Or go
tonight
the
or
extra,
tomorrow.
go the extra $3 and buy it in Amazon. You know what I mean?
$3. Oh, what's $3 over here?
You sound like people I grew up with. You know? Hey, I'm telling you something.
Glenn Dodge wants to know if there's cliff notes for the book. There'll be a test in English class.
Cliff Notes. Actually, I did the Max Notes for Julius Caesar. So when we were reading Julius Caesar in 9th grade, and my kids were all saying, "Oh, we're going to get the Max Notes," I said, "No, why don't you use the Cliff Notes? I wrote them."
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah,
For the actual.
for the company. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed by that. Frank Walker is watching.
Hey, Frank, how you feeling?
Yeah, I don't know how Frank is feeling, but nice to see that he's on. If there's any Beatle fans out there, which I don't know if there are or not, but it was actually you that introduced Frank to the Ruddles. So if there's any real Beatle fans out there, you know what I'm talking about, the Ruddles. But so I need to thank you for that, because I love the Ruddles. If you're a music fan or a Beatle fan, you know what I'm talking about, but probably nobody knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, I love the Ruddles. All right, so you've written a few books.
Right.
But then as well, there's other things here as well. You know what? I'll let you.
Well, I brought some poetry. I had told you the story about 1972.
You did.
Yeah, in 1972, I gave out a poem I had written to my classes called Christmas Story. Excuse me. Christmas Story of Mary's Complaint. And what happened is it created a whole big to-do, because there was a woman who was running for the school board, and she published it in the Mid-Island Herald Times, whatever it was.
Yep.
And demanded that I be fired because I was a communist and an anti-Semite and an anti-Christian and stuff. So.
And you are all those things.
Well, that goes without saying.
Right.
But the thing is, it
didn't affect his teaching.
It dragged on for 6 months or so, and at the end of the 6 months, I won, and so they left me alone from that point.
Was there a point where it did look like maybe you were concerned that you were going to lose your job?
Well, I put in a grievance, and we went through the channels, the principal of the school and superintendent, and then up the line, and then when the arbitrator came in, I won the hearing, and they had to expunge my record. So.
And where was this poem that this lady found it?
I had given it out on a ditto. In fact, I had given it out the year before. And what happened was, it was actually something I had written in the inside of a Christmas card to a friend of mine. And I said, "Oh, that would make a great poem." So I put the thing together, and I handed it out, and it was Mary calling her friend on the telephone, telling her about Christmas. And you want to hear it?
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
All right.
I think they'd all love to hear it.
It's called Christmas Story or Mary's Complaint. So my husband said, "Let's take the mule and go for a little ride in the country." What did I know from Miami Beach? There I am, 9 months gone and in a stable. We couldn't get reservations even in a Quality Court motel, mind you. You know what Christmas season is like. And what happens? A light is shining in my eyes all night. Some goy in a white robe with wings and a horn is having a party. Did you ever hear of anything so ridiculous? Halloween in December. And then the labor pains. Let me tell you, you've never felt pain in your life. Low back pain, and on top of that, I get a migraine. And if that isn't enough, these 3 Arabs come barging in. I thought it was the 6 Days War all over. But who's complaining? The kid is healthy and good looking like his father. The only trouble is he keeps talking about this Messiah business. Why don't you be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant even, like your cousin John, I asked him. Messiah. Is that any kind of profession for a nice Jewish boy? So, I thought that's pretty tame, pretty meek but back in, what was this,
Yeah, what year was that?
1972, yeah.
I was 2 years old.
Paul Lorcella, who was in my class at the time, actually sent me a copy of the ditto that I had given out to him. He sent it to me on Facebook. He still had it.
Wow.
The ditto. Yeah.
Wow. Holy moly. That guy saves everything. So let me see. Glenn Dodd said something about the lighting. What's the matter with the lighting, Glenn? Is it-
Oh, yeah, wrong. Dang. All right, I'm gonna turn on another.
Oh, you got
light.
more lights? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little.
Is it a little dark?
I look much better in the dark with your eyes squinted.
The production budget is 0. Be thankful the video isn't done with stick figures.
Is that
Who
better?
said that?
Yeah, that's better.
Brian Festus said.
Very funny. Very funny.
All right, Bruce. Did you know Bruce Needleman? He's a Hicksville guy.
Lori Needleman. There was a Lori Needleman?
I don't know, Bruce. Are you related to Lori? I don't know. But he's asking, how do you feel between junior high 7 to 9 grades or middle school 6 to 8 grades?
I liked the junior high when it was 7, 8, 9. When the 9th grade went up to the high school, I went up with the 9th graders. I loved being in the high school, but the 9th graders changed.
The ninth graders changed?
Yeah, they used to be very mature when they were the seniors at the junior high school. When they became the freshmen at the high school, they were really like little babies.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we were talking about that before. That my senior year was the first year that Hicksville brought the 9th graders in. They were like, we treated them like little kids. I do remember that. I'm trying to find the faculty. Oh, here we go. There you are.
There I am. That's me with the dark beard.
Dark beard. I don't know if we can.
That was a high school yearbook?
This is my my senior book. Is it coming out or
Yeah,
is it blurry?
say what
I can
your,
come closer.
which finger it is.
This finger.
The
So
one that
go
almost
lower.
looks like me.
Bring
Come
the,
lower?
Yep, there you go. So his pointer finger, that's Mr. Scalia years ago.
Yeah, this is 30 years ago. This book. Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Crazy to me that it's that long. and I'm constantly amazed. I was telling you before. I'm just constantly amazed at your memory of kids and who came through and who did what.
A lot of people made an impression, a real impression on me. And a lot of people are my Facebook friends.
Well, yeah, and that's actually, I talk about it a lot on this show, that there's, that's one of the great things about Facebook, be able to reconnect. What do you...
My sister Cindy said
Nice.
Mr. Scalia was hot.
Nice.
I used to be hot. Now I'm tepid.
Oh, you're hot.
Tepid. Barely lukewarm.
Ooh, Darren O'Neill is watching now.
Darren O'Neill is watching.
Darren O'Neill.
Shouldn't he be flying a plane? No texting while flying your plane.
Yeah. All right, Darren was
Darren
somebody
was
you
in my
remember.
class, sure. Yeah.
So yeah, mentioning, talking about how you remember a lot from high school. And Darren's somebody that we've talked about, and you keep in touch with a lot of
I do.
the teachers, and
Yeah. We were a very close faculty, the junior high school especially, and then when we went up to the high school, we're still together. In fact, we just celebrated two of the teachers' 80th birthdays.
oh wow,
And we get together every month and celebrate. And
yeah, you go on his Facebook page, you see a lot of familiar faces
Right.
there. Some great people.
old familiar faces.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, how did you? It's an interesting story how you ended up at Hicksville. Yes.
I did. It was an interesting story. My aunt and uncle, that would be my Uncle Tom Scalia and my aunt Ann Scalia, moved to Hicksville, and she sent me a clipping that there was a teacher, an English teacher at the high school, who had been shot. And
Wow.
I knew there was an opening.
At least a temporary one is nothing else.
So I applied for the job, and there were lots of jobs at that time. And I was hired for the job at the junior high. Years later, when I went up to the high school, that teacher was still teaching. He wasn't killed, he was just shot.
Wow.
And he told me the story, which is somewhat recreated in the book.
Oh, okay.
This is a story about a fictitious school, but a lot of the things that are in it are based on fact. And so years later, I said, you know, I won't mention his name, although I think he's gone. I'm here because of you, and I told him the story, and he said, oh yeah, you know what happened? I had been out, I had been drinking, and all the houses look alike, and basically I went into the wrong house, and the guy came home, and he was a cop, and he chased me, and he shot me, and I said, oh yeah, that's a very interesting story, but that wasn't the story that I had heard. The story that I had heard was that it wasn't, well, it was the wrong house, but he was not there necessarily, and the guy came home a little earlier than expected. And the final thing is, when he retired, I moved into his room, so I got his classroom, so he was the reason for me to start teaching there, and I finished off in his room, so to speak.
So yeah, so he just happened to walk into the wrong house, and he just happened to be naked. It's just funny how that works out.
Like climbed out the bedroom window.
And it's funny you mentioned that you just saw some teachers yesterday, because Bobby Sen just asked if Pat Faraday is still around.
Yeah, she is. It was her birthday.
Yep.
Yeah, it was her birthday.
Bruce Needleman is asking if you speak to Mr. Field, who I know is down in Florida.
I speak to him probably once or twice a week. He calls me. His daughter Kismet, who is now 15 years old, loves me. So she calls to speak to Uncle Joe.
Nice.
And yeah, he tells me all the stuff that's going on down in Florida, and we kind of reminisce. And yeah, it's nice to be in touch with him.
Allie Bayer, who graduated with me, she lives down there, and she years ago, several years back, she was telling me how she was food shopping one day, and she sees this man. And, man, that looks like Mr. Field, you know. And she got the balls to actually ask him, and yeah, so she lives right around the block from him down in Florida.
Yeah, I think he's in St. Augustine.
Yeah, if you say so, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so she sees him regularly. Let's see. So, sorry. I'm just looking at my notes. You also have a funny story regarding Hicksville with the first and only skirt day.
Oh, that's also in the book. Skirt Day. Skirt Day was the home ec department. Back in the day, the boys took shop, the girls took home ec.
Right.
So the teacher in home ec decided she was going to bring back fashion, because the women were wearing pantsuits at the time, and all of the standards had gone. This is the way I used to dress when I went to school.
I can verify that, yeah.
By the way, I arded.
I farted.
So anyway,
That's my poem.
she had an idea. She had all of her girls make skirts, and on a prescribed day, they were all going to wear their skirts. And so for months, there were signs all over the junior high. This was at the junior high. And it was everyone wear a skirt on skirt day. So skirt day comes, and I was teaching the Pearl. And I had already been burned with the poem thing. So I had filled out my plan book, because we were doing sexual stereotyping in the Pearl and so forth and so on. And the bell rings for skirt day, and I have my long dark hair. And I'm wearing a purple top and my jeans, you know, without the elastic top. Now they have the elastic top. And I roll up my jeans. I'm wearing combat boots and white socks, and I put a wraparound skirt on, and I walk out into the hall. And in 30 seconds, poof, it's all over the junior high school. One of the assistant principals goes by, and he sees me. And he gasps and he goes down, and the next thing, the principal, Mr. Fagan, who some of you might know, he was the AP at the the high school, was now the principal at the junior high, and he comes up and his face is the color of a tomato. And he's, come with me, and I have a class, I'll send someone up. So I go down, I follow him through the halls, my hair billowing in the wind. I go down, if you remember the junior high school, past the music department,
Yeah.
around the bend,
Yeah.
into the main office, around the big bar there. Everybody stops and quiets down. We walk in. We go into his office. I sit down, I cross my legs, I pull my skirt very daintily. Slams the door. He says, "What's the meaning of this?" I said, "It's skirt day." He says, "You know very well that's just for the women." And then I said, "No, the signs for months have said everybody wear a skirt." So I said, "You know what? You're a sexist." And I'm teaching a lesson on sexual stereotype, and I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to tell everyone what you say here. And I had already won this thing with the poem and stuff,
Okay.
so Mr. Fagan, who was a really nice man, not a very good principal, but a really nice man. He said, "Well, I know very well if you took this to court, you'd probably win and stuff." And I said, "Listen, Mr. Fagan, I really don't want to be insubordinate. What is it that you want?" He said, "Well, I would prefer that you don't wear your skirt in the halls." I said, "All right." I said, "But I'm going to wear it in the classroom." He said, "Okay." I stood up, I turned around, I pulled my pants down and took my skirt off, and I went back, went upstairs, put my skirt back on, and I taught one of the best lessons that I ever taught in my entire life. And as a result of that, poor Sylvia Lewis's dreams of skirt day every year, that was the first, the one and only. They never duplicated skirt day.
She ever talk to you after?
She did not. She was pissed. Yeah, she was pissed.
Who's that, Miss Lewis?
Sylvia Lewis.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I do remember Mr. Fagan. My mother loved Mr. Fagan.
He was a nice man. He was a really nice man. I always referred to him as the Jimmy Carter of the junior high school. He was, Jimmy Carter was a nice man. He was Habitats for Humanity and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very effective president.
Are we allowed to talk about teachers?
Sure.
Okay. Because Bobby Sen has a question, which I was actually going to get to.
Dead.
Yeah, we'll explain that.
Play a little Dead or Alive with some of these teachers. Which is funny to me because my mother went to Hicksville too. So
I remember your mother from Parents' Night.
right.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew Frank and his mom. Because he was the nice one. But I had a lot of the same teachers. So I didn't always get, why can't you be nice like your brother? Sometimes I got, why can't you be nice like your mother? Which I thought was crazy. But Bobby is asking, what's your take on Mr. Dean?
He was a very interesting character. He was the head of the union.
Is that right?
Yeah, there was a union and there was an association. The association was the bargaining agent, which was kind of like a company's shop. And he was a union president. And he just seemed to get caught up in the character that he was described as being. He became what everybody said he was.
Well, yeah, and it was described because he was. I mean, this teacher, the jumping out of the tree stuff.
Yes,
I mean, this is for all you non-Hicksville people. This man used to hide in a tree. So if you were trying to cut a class and you would run out of the school, he would jump out of the tree and nail you. I wouldn't believe it either if I didn't see it. But I saw it. Many of us knew it. To get off topic for a second, Bobby Sen says him and Billy Stanley wore skirts. They wore mini skirts in 1986 and were sent home.
1986. Okay, that was after.
That's the year Bobby graduated, if I remember right. So, but yeah, that's just nuts jumping out of the tree like that. And again, it's interesting to me because that poem and jumping out of the tree. I mean, these are things that would just be completely unheard of today.
Oh, you couldn't do stuff like that.
No.
You can't say the things that we used to say, to the kids joking around.
Right.
I mean, you could never, I mean, you couldn't go like this to a kid today.
Right. I always talk about, which I've had some people on the show in the past where we've talked about the relationships.
Right.
And most people disagree with me, but I still just have a hard time believing that the relationships that teachers have with students now match what it was when we were kids. We talked about Mr. Metzendorf before, if anybody remembers him. I went to a Met game with him once. Artie Horowitz,
Right.
who we talked about earlier, one of my favorite people of all time, let alone a teacher. I went to a Met game with him once, and I can't tell you how many times after school, he would sit in his classroom because he had the big John Lennon poster. I would sit there and talk Beatles with him for an hour, before I went home. You don't have those relationships anymore.
Well, Artie and I co-directed. It was the one time we did the drama. We co-directed Arsenic and Old Lace.
Really?
At the junior high.
I love that play.
And we did it with 2 casts because we were stupid.
Okay.
And it took forever to do. But what would happen is kids would stay for rehearsals. And what you do is you load them in your car, and then you drive them home.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, you drop the kid off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't do that today.
It's a shame.
I know.
Okay, let's see. I know. I mentioned Mr. Dean. I know there'd be a lot of comments here.
I think he's gone. I think he passed.
That would be my guess. I mean, he
Yeah.
looked like he was on the older side back
I'll
then.
tell you a funny story about him. He was a maverick. He really was. And they had complained that his grades were too low. I'm sure he was very, very fair in his grading and stuff, but they complained. And so in his last year that he retired, he gave everyone 100. He walked out of the
That's
building.
great.
Everyone 100.
That's
Let
awesome.
them sort it out.
That is classic. That's perfect. Russ Kasser, you guys had a New Year's blowout party at our principal's house at the Hogans. Lovely family, gave so much to the school. Yeah, I didn't go. I mean, I was not. I wasn't invited. Yeah. I don't know why. Hogan was right. Nothing but good things to say about Hogan.
Hogan was. He went to the school.
Yeah.
His kids all went to the school.
Yeah.
He was a teacher, phys ed teacher, and then he became the principal. I liked him. I thought he was a good man. He was always good to me. Yeah.
All right. Well, and a lot of the people watching won't know this name because she came later. But did you know Mrs. Nikolic?
No.
Oh, okay. Because she came to the middle school after you went to the high school.
Right. Sorry.
But all right, because I have an uncle. She's my cousin. That's why I was going to set you up and see what you had to say about my cousin. My uncle was best friends with Mr. Hogan. Our family grew up in Hicksville too with the Hogans, and so that was his daughter. All right, never mind. Let's see. I saw somebody ask about Mr. Sheck.
Read Glenn Dodge's comment about Mr. Sheck. It's funny.
Asked to get a drink of water. He told you to bring a canteen. Wow.
He's out of state.
He's on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, he's on Facebook. I think he's down in Florida, though. I'm not sure.
Carol Miners mentioned Mr. Shack, not Mr. Sheck, Mr. Shack. Remember the 3 deans: Sheck, Shack, Shore.
Well, we had Schick, Sheck, Shack, Shuck, and Shacker all one year.
Wow.
And those mailboxes were always, you were getting the wrong mail.
Yeah, I bet. Mr. Shuck, we were talking about earlier as well. Mr. Shuck, I thought was a funny man. He was just so straight and almost spooky at times. But I remember the stories back then. He had the big beard because his face was all messed up from a car accident. And it turns out that was true.
Yeah.
That was always the rumor. The kids always heard those stories. But
yeah, he was out for a long time. He had reconstructive surgery.
Yes, Miss Shore was a tough lady. I liked her. Yeah, she was a tough one.
She's another one that's gone.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just give me a name. Live, dead, I'll tell you.
Well, they're talking about Mr. Shack. He recently died,
Yes.
maybe 2-3 years ago, give or take.
A little longer than that.
Oh, has it been that longer? We talked about Mr. Schaefer. He just passed away recently.
Higginson's gone.
Higginson's gone.
Yeah.
Mr. Green.
Last I spoke to him, he was alive.
Somebody mentioned
I saw him about a week ago.
Mr. Bunting.
He was a high school guy, so I didn't see much of him.
I don't know him. Bobby Sen is asking for Austin.
Oh,
I don't know.
I think long gone. Carolyn Austin.
I don't know. I don't remember her. Mrs. Dreyer.
Long gone.
Smith.
Tom Smith. There were a couple of Smiths. There was Tom Smith at the junior high who went up to the high school. He passed away about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Darren O'Neill wants to know if Joe Scalia is still alive.
So far.
That's funny.
That's great.
Except he calls himself Scalia now.
Mr. and Mrs. Greenfield, are they still alive?
No.
Neither one of them?
Well, I know he's gone. I think she died too.
Wow. I like them. They were nice
Yeah.
people. Mr. Healy.
As far as I know, he's living down in North Carolina, South Carolina, something like that.
Tell us a Mr. Dean story. Mike Gallagher. Do you remember Mike Gallagher? We were just talking about Mr. Dean, talking about, jumping out of the tree and stuff.
He had a car without doors.
Oh, yeah, somebody mentioned that actually.
Yeah, car without doors.
A Jeep?
I don't know what it was. He also had a Corvette.
Ooh,
Cynthia Funk. Do you know her?
who's that?
Probably older than you.
Well,
Darren says this is depressing. Why is this depressing?
Because you keep talking about dead people.
Oh.
And he's
Oh.
sad when you hear that
All
someone's
right, Bobby Sen mentioned Miss Dunbar. She's around.
she's around. Her picture's on my Facebook page.
Go to his Facebook page. He just posted a picture. He just had breakfast with a bunch of teachers yesterday. Miss Dunbar is in the photos.
Miss Faraday.
I thought in my day when I was, I thought Miss Dunbar was sexy, and she graduated with my mother.
Right, she was also Hicksville.
She graduated with my mother.
There were a lot of people. Mrs. Stay also graduated from Hicksville.
Oh, is that right?
And Mr. Carreri.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mr. Carreri's
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Who remembers Mr. Carreri? I love Mr. Carreri. I love Miss Stay. Miss Stay was one of the best teachers I ever had.
We paint. Mary, Cynthia Apple, and myself, and maybe Jay will come this weekend, this Friday, and bring the refreshments.
How weird is that? Go and drink it with my old teacher. Let's see. Larry Salmon?
Larry Salmon, teacher?
I don't know. Maybe she just felt like saying the name Larry Salmon. I don't know.
This is cool because Brian Festa, he didn't even go to Hicksville, and he said, "I'm loving this show tonight. Definitely stepping up to Maxwell House from the Senka."
Mrs. Wiener.
She's at the high school.
I don't
Yeah,
know her.
she was at the high school. Oh, she's the one that I mentioned. I went to that Tina and Tony's wedding,
Oh, right, yeah.
and we brought a gift. People didn't know what to do with it.
That's great. Who said somebody else loved Guerreri? Oh, Carol Roby. Carol Miner. Sorry, Carol Miner, she's going by. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, they were, I loved Mr. Guerreri and Miss Stay. I loved, there were a lot of teachers. Yeah, Miss Dunbar, she graduated with my mother. They hadn't, I don't think they knew each other well, but they were reunited a little bit because I failed her class. So they reunited when Miss Dunbar told her that I failed. I had to take summer school for history. Miss Shield was in their class too. She graduated with them.
Right, Linda, yeah.
Right, and she's around.
I see her.
Right, she's nice people.
Well, like I said, we were very close. We still are. We get together once a month, celebrate birthdays. We, unfortunately, people get sick and pass. We see each other at those events. But it was like a family.
Oh, Darren's got some good ones tonight. How many teachers did Joe sleep with back in the day?
Now we're talking about sleeping, right?
Yeah, right. There were a couple of them. Mr. Mackey, Mr. Seven, Kinnear. That name.
Donnie Kinnear. She's retired. She's down in, I think she's in South Carolina. She's on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Cooney, we were just talking about him. He's still around?
Cooney's on Facebook too. He's living up in Lake Placid, I believe.
Russ Kasser is asking about Miss Hosey. Talk about another
Hosey
teacher.
Pierce.
Yeah, Miss Hosey Pierce. She was on Facebook for a while. I don't know if she still is, but she was. Miss Frank. And Carol Miner is asking, how drunk was Mr. Corona most days? I don't remember Mr. Corona.
He was at the junior high. I don't think he drank. He was at the junior high.
I have my junior high yearbook.
Yeah.
Mr. Corona.
He might have been gone. Now he may have gone up to the high school.
Oh, you know what? Terry Fertini just came up with a great name, which I wish I thought of, because she was fantastic. Miss Zumagala.
Oh, she is in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Why?
Because that's where her family's from. Yeah, they just got something like 5 feet of snow.
Wow. She was great.
Yeah.
She was great. She was in the T-wing, right? Right.
Yeah. Well, at the end of my career at the junior high school, the T-wing used to be for 7th graders, but at the end, they put all of the troublemaking teachers in the T-wing contained out there.
And she was one of them?
She was one of them.
That's great. Give me a good troublemaking story with Miss Zumagala.
Well, I mean, she was, when I was going through that poem thing, she was at the board meeting, and the board members wanted to know who the kook with the hat on. She was wearing a strange hat. But she was, she was always in the middle of things.
That's great. She was one of the best teachers ever.
Yeah. She was science, she went from science to health.
Yeah, I was going to say I had her for health, yeah. And I'm just going to come out and say it, but who remembers Mr. Goldberg, the gym teacher?
Oh, Marv, yeah.
Hated that guy. Hated. I'm just saying it. I don't care. Is he dead or alive?
He's dead.
He's dead. That's fine then.
He had the finger.
That's one of the many reasons why I hated him.
He would do this. Yeah.
Oh, all the time. Right? Oh, and it hurt. It hurt.
It's true.
I hated that. And he would get mad over the stupidest things. Stupid things.
Well, he wasn't really mad. It was all part of an act.
Is that right?
Wow, a lot of people are like, I hated Mr. Goldberg too.
Is that right? Yeah.
He was loud. He had a good heart. He had a real, well, his heart wasn't that good. He died of a heart attack. So you're right. A lot of Goldberg. He was a good wrestling coach. He had a good team.
Oh yeah. Russ Cassie, remember the forever story about popping an eye out of you? You didn't wear goggles. Russ, you gotta go more on that. I don't know what that means. I saw somebody mention Mr. Razak. I was telling Mr. Scalia a story before, and I think I've actually may have told this story in here before. I don't know if some of you may remember, if maybe we're in the class together, but we had Razak. I think he was an 8th grade science teacher.
I think so, yeah.
And we were laughing before because Razak, I loved him. He was a very good storyteller, but for a science teacher, he talked about everything except science, and pretty much the whole school year. We would talk about the sunset and the sunrise, and that was the closest thing to science that we got to in the class. Everything else would be like judo. It was one thing I remembered him always talking about. But we were getting close to the end of the school year, and it was finals time. So to prepare the class for the final, Mr. Razak handed out what he said was an old final exam from, I think he said 1976, if my memory is right. And the whole class together, we did each question together as a class. It wasn't homework or anything like that. We did each question, and he had us, he gave us a few minutes to figure out each question, then we'd all go over the answers. And he made sure, he told us, write down the answers and go home and study this stuff. So a few weeks go by, and it's time to take the final exam. And if you remember back, I don't know if every school does this, I don't know if it's still the practice today, but you go in for a final exam, the whole class goes in, but it's not your teacher, it's somebody else is monitoring. So we go in, it's time to take the final, they hand it out to us, and it's the same exact test. Same exact test. And the whole class, thank God nobody spoke up. Thank God nobody said, we would have killed that kid. we all just, the whole class, everybody just kind of looked around a little bit, we all just gave each other a quick little nod. you could just sense it. We knew exactly what had happened here, and we just went with it, and we just aced those answers, and I think everybody was done within 30 minutes. And we left and danced down the hallway and all passed 8th grade science that year with flying colors.
Well, when I see him, I'm going to tell him that.
Yeah, tell him.
Yeah, now he's somebody that's alive.
Yeah,
He's got to be.
He's up there.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like
He's
was
in his 80s.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So I thought he was older back then.
He's in his 80s.
Wow. I thought he was like 50s or.
Teachers seem so old looking when we're like
that's
kids.
true.
Like, you're thinking they're 70 and then 30 years pass and then they'll say, yeah, he's 70 this year.
All right, so Russ Kessler, he expanded on his story. Goldberg used to tell every class during paddleball about a kid whose eyes were popped out of his skull because he didn't wear goggles. I don't remember that. That's funny.
He was a good racquetball and a good handball player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Glenn Dodge is talking about Mr. Joseph. He used to throw chalkboard erasers at you if you weren't paying attention.
Max Joseph. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. He was a math teacher.
Bobby Sen, we were just talking a little while ago about Mr. Batten.
Yeah, Dave is gone. Yeah.
But they're close, right? He was a close friend of yours?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Ali Bayer's watching. Ali, we mentioned you before. Do you still live, you still see Mr. Field? Mr. Field, right? Not Field.
No
Yes,
S.
no S. You still see him down there in Florida? It's 9:45. All right. I know, we could just sit here all day talking about teachers. Darren O'Neill says, good heart but dumb as wood. Who is that? I don't know who he's talking about. Talking about me. Okay. All right, so we're going to play a little game. I don't know if I told you about this.
Well, you gave me the answers, and
Well, no, that's not it. I'm talking about a different game. If you're friends with Mr. Scalia on Facebook, or if you're friends with Mr. Scalia on Facebook, you see that he's got quite the sense of humor, and he's got some skills. I got skills. I'm talking about your Photoshopping skills. Now, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I don't really do it as much, but I usually get a lot of responses for some Photoshopping of my own.
You got some skill.
Well, thanks. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you some Photoshop pictures that Mr. Sky has done. I'm going to kind of compare them to some I've done, and let's see what you guys think. See which ones are better. So, all right, I got to work my way closer. Sally, you got to help me out. Tell me what's what here. All right. So I'm going to start right here. I'm showing them this one.
Okay.
Here's Mr. Scalia with a very important historic figure.
Go a little closer and a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that.
Tell us a story about that one.
Well,
Okay.
when I was there on that march on Washington, Dr. King looked over and he said, how am I going to begin this? And I said, I really don't know. I said, I had a dream about this whole thing. And then the next thing you know, he launched into that.
All right, so now he's already getting points because he has stories behind these things, and I got nothing. I just make stupid photos. See, so yours was an historic figure.
That's good.
So I'm going with this one. Sally, you got to help me out here.
Okay.
This is me and my buddy Sal Couture hanging out with Abe.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it. Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I have no story, but
I'd say.
he asked me what the score was to the hockey game, and I said 4 score. That's the best I had on the spot. That's the best I could do.
That's okay. I mean, it's it's not very complicated.
Well, that's the story of my life. I'm not very complicated. All right, so now I'm going to show this one.
Yes. I don't remember that one.
You did see yourself in there just now, right?
Yeah. I have
Come closer to me.
I have to understand what that was for.
Although, so since you don't remember, I'll show it to you again. I'll point something out here. I don't know if you guys can see this well enough, but who's lurking in the background here? Joe Scalia hanging out with the perverts. Can you guys make out who that is right behind him? Right there. Let's see.
Oh, now I can see it.
Let's see if anybody's. All right. So the first one, the first Photoshop. All right, people are voting for yours.
Of course.
All right. So.
I wonder if I do that. Yeah, that's good.
Can you guys see who's lurking
I gotta
back
come up
there?
here.
All right, I'll show you. Can you tell who that is?
Well, this is when I was elected Pope and I turned it down. I remember that.
Yeah, but who's that behind you? So what'd you guys do that night?
Oh, that's, what's his name?
Matt Lauer.
Matt Lauer.
Matt Lauer
Yeah.
is lurking in the background. All right, so to match your Pope, I have this one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you like that?
That's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So,
That's
so
good.
this is
Simple. You know.
well, again, it's what
I
I
don't
do.
even remember you doing that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is when
That's
the
a
Pope,
good one.
when he visited our country. I had we took a ride. We cruised the Pike.
You both look so happy.
Well, yeah, we had a fun
Yeah,
day.
it's like
He's a nice guy, the Pope.
Yeah, it's all right. This one,
My tribute to Prince.
his tribute to Prince. This is, but your face is like all like.
I know.
It's
That's
like squished.
See, that's not a top of the line.
All right. Well, yeah, I think this is what I might have you
more
be.
like Charles Manson. Than that.
But so this is me. You turned yourself into a rock star. I am the baby of a rock star.
There you go.
I am the
This
baby
one,
of a rock star.
I give
yeah.
this one to you.
I think
I
this
love
is the only
this
one I'm
one.
going to win.
This is
but-
yours.
yeah.
Because look,
definitely.
he looks just like him.
I do get that a lot. That I look like the man. A Hicksville graduate.
No, actually, he wasn't.
Well, he did. In 92, they gave it to
Right,
him. So.
right.
All right, now this, I think, might be my favorite of yours.
That was when I was at the Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, I do have, just a selfie with a bunch of his buddies. I have a similar one, but it's not going to beat this one. But it's there's me, there's Frank. Bobby Donahue, he's a Hicksville guy, but he went to Holy Trinity. That's Bobby Donahue, and we're hanging out with some of our friends. But yeah, he's got me beat on that. But this was the best I can match it to. And I think I have one more. Yes, here is. I don't know the story behind this or why he made this, but it just cracks me
I don't
up.
remember what the caption. was.
What's in the hand?
It was a
Looks like
newspaper.
A newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it just cracks me up. So this is Mr. Scalia doing something disgusting. So the best I can do as far as matching disgusting, the best I can do would be this. Me with something disgusting. That's really the best I can do to match that. So, so these are our photoshopping skills. Let me hear what you guys say. I'll go back and read some of the comments now.
Someone
those were
said
the
you
ones.
both have skills. Russell Cassar
Yeah,
says-
Russ Casser, yeah.
Baby Joel is a classic.
Oh, thanks. They're all. Oh, Jerry Esposito. Oh, she says she loves Miss Dunbar. Okay. Allie Bear says she still sees Mr. Field. Oh, all right. Janine Camage.
Yeah.
Sorry. She mentions Mr. Bracciano.
He's around.
Yeah. All right. So help me out here because he's saying he's still around. I would swear I heard on Facebook maybe a year or two ago that he had passed. So help us out there if you guys heard anything. All right. So Carol's asking, what was Scalia's favorite to teach? Favorite subject? Favorite year?
Favorite book?
Favorite book?
Pearl. The Pearl.
I enjoyed that book.
Yeah, I like that book. I would read it every year with 5 classes. I loved it, and I never got tired. Animal Farm.
I loved Animal Farm. I hated the movie.
Yeah, well,
Hated
the
the
movie
movie.
was terrible. But,
Yeah.
but the book, if you read it the one time, it's okay. But when you have to read it 5 times, times 25 years, and watch that stupid movie.
Yeah, the movie totally ruined
I
it.
was thinking the only thing when I was teaching 7th grade, we had to read The Raft. It was a true story about
Yeah, rings
3
a bell.
flyers that ended up in the Pacific Ocean in a boat,
Yeah.
and Robert Trumbull was the author of it. And it was a good short story, but oh god, it was tedious. It was tedious. So.
Oh, somebody mentioned. Oh, Ann Clark Turk mentioned 1984. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That was probably what 10th grade,
Oh yeah.
I think.
Frank Walker wants to know who your favorite student was, and of course he just nominated himself.
My favorite student.
Thank God. Is that possible?
No, impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
How? What do you think? Would you be able to narrow it down to say 10? And I'm not going to answer the names, but I'm just curious. Like,
Because they were all different, you know,
Yeah.
and I mean, there were some people who just really touched my heart, you know, and there were some people that
Did you teach Lorraine Bracco?
I didn't teach her. She was in school when I was there, and
Yeah,
I
she
saw her
graduated
when
early
she came
70s,
back to the high school. She was doing research. I saw her then.
Oh, really? She came back to do research on
Yeah, she was doing a role as a special ed teacher.
Oh, really?
It was a really bad movie.
No, yeah. Not.
And that was the last time I saw her.
There's a clip of her on YouTube asking Billy Joel how he survived Hicksville High School. She apparently didn't have good memories of it.
She called me at the at my book signing, my first book signing.
Really?
She was doing The Sopranos.
Wow.
She called me to say congratulations.
Oh, that's very nice.
Artie Horowitz was very instrumental in her career, you know.
No, I didn't know that.
He took photos of her.
Yeah.
And,
Well, like headshots, you mean?
yeah, photos. I mean, just, you know, regular shots.
Oh, okay.
And brought them to her parents. And then she got a modeling job. You know, he was saying, you know, look at what you have here that you're working with.
Wow.
She got a modeling job, and I think she thanked him in one of her articles that she had an interview or something. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
And it's so interesting just to hear that. Can you even imagine, like, your kid coming home and saying, "Here are pictures that my teacher took of me."
Well,
Like,
right.
like today, you'd be like, "What?"
Right. He'd be behind bars and out of
I
job.
know,
Yeah,
and
right.
he made her whole career.
We did have one student that I know who ended up in Penthouse.
My mother told me she got rid of all those magazines. Frank's calling you up right now. Really?
Yeah, one of the students ended up in Penthouse. And the funny thing is, when one of the teachers brought him in and said, "Do you recognize this girl?" And I won't say who, covered her face, said,
I did go to a gentleman's club once. Wow, it's got to be almost 20 years ago, where there was a girl that I went to high school with. Don't even ask me her name, so I don't even remember it. And it took. I was there for a little while, and and she's right on stage. "You look familiar." I said, "Yeah, you kind of look familiar to me too." And I was there for a while before it hit me. I was like, "Wait, did you go to Hicksville?" And I was like, "Holy crap! This is like something that so many people talk about." You know, they wonder if a classmate is ever doing something like that, and you know, there I am handing her a $1 bill.
Yeah, no, she was also in the movie Caligula,
Oh,
which was actually two movies, you know. It was the legitimate movie and then the porn scenes that they had mixed in with it. She was in the porn scene part.
you've done your research on this.
Yes. Yes.
It still feels weird to say that to a teacher.
Right now, all I can do is research.
Wow. All right, let me read some comments. I do want to get to the watercolors, so let's see. All right, so Frank Walker, you're not the favorite student. Too bad.
He used to be Frank, but not anymore.
No, he's still Frank. Liz Bracco remembers you fondly.
Is Liz on?
No.
No, this is Patricia Ruggiero.
Oh, Patricia, yes. Hello, Patricia Ruggiero.
George Kasubis, Mr. Scalia, I think your name comes from a Greek word meaning hoeing, Hoeing. I don't know what that word is.
To hoe.
Oh, I thought I was calling you a hoe.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
To hoe. To use a garden implement.
Lisa
People
Reinhardt.
call me Scalia all the time.
Lisa Reinhardt says hello to you.
Hello, Lisa Reinhardt. How are
There's
you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
You remember Lisa? 'Cause there's like a million
A lot of
Reinhardts.
Reinhardts.
Yeah. All right, so yes, Bobby Sen also wrote "Buy the Book." Yes, we'll get back to the book, but I just wanted to show off some of this watercolor.
This is the first one that I did this year.
Okay. Now, all right. So, this is something that you've always done? This is
No,
something you got into?
I never took art.
So this is after retirement?
I never took art. 1995 I started. My kids had come over. We had nothing to do. I bought some cheap Crayola paint. I had some ditto paper that I had stolen from the high school.
Oh my God.
And we painted, and I said, well, I can do this. And I took my first art class about 4 years ago.
Oh wow.
But I had been kind of doing and learning and stuff.
From watching Bob Ross.
Rest.
Happy
little
trees.
trees. Happy little trees.
Happy little trees.
I'm painting now with Jan Guarino, Guarino. She's on Facebook. If you look her up, you'll see some of her stuff. And she does what's called fearless watercolor.
Fearless.
Fearless. Don't be afraid to paint. And I have become fearless. I used to do landscapes because even a bad tree looks like a tree. But when you do more complicated things, you gotta be a little more.
I was awful at watercoloring. When I took Cynthia Pold's watercoloring class, I couldn't paint for garbage, and I was an art major.
You draw amazing.
That's all I could do was draw.
Well,
And I flunked out of art school because I couldn't do anything but draw.
this is one of the ones that I did in Jan's class.
I'm gonna bring it closer.
Yep, you're gonna have to come closer.
That's a
Tell me when.
theater in
It's actually good.
Croatia.
Nice.
Croatia.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's really, I liked it a lot.
And that was done in Jan's class. Here's another one that was done in her class. This would make a great.
Oh wow, I like that one.
A little bit lower.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you name these or anything?
Oh yeah, that one is called
Little girl holding a lantern.
Fire Carrier.
Oh, okay. See, that's why I
People
feel
are
dark
saying
too.
beautiful.
This is actually a girl that was sitting in the grass at the Highline Park. And I took several pictures of her. I painted two different paintings of her. I never would have tried that 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Hi, Bobby Donahue.
Oh, Bobby Donahue's watching?
This I did on my own. This is, like water and rocks and sky is relatively simple to do. It looks like water, it looks like rocks, it looks like sky. I mean,
That's a simple description.
Even bad water. This one, that could be my daughter in the
Oh, I like that.
in the picture, but it's not.
A little lower.
It does. I've seen pictures of your daughter on Facebook. That does look like her.
Yeah.
And does she still live in France?
No, she spent a year in Lyon. She lives in Brooklyn. She teaches French.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's great.
This is one from a trip to the Harmony Vineyards on Long Island. And a friend took the picture
Little
and
lower.
I painted it and I sent it to them. They put it on their web page.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that? A music clef?
Yeah, of course it's Harmony.
See
And
that?
this is the first one of this year.
First one we see. Nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when Joe posts these on Facebook, he will also post the picture that he's painting, and
Right.
it's really cool to see both.
And I sent that to Jan because I haven't been in her class. I won't be going to probably the end of January. And she said, more contrast and do this. And I went back and I kind of tweaked it and did it. And
And do you sell them? Do you do anything with them, or is it just for yourself?
everything is for sale. However, I don't have to sell anything to eat. That's the good thing. I have probably about 150 of them hanging up in my house.
Oh, nice.
So my neighbor came in and he said, I want that one. He said, I'll give you $100 for that and I'll take you out to lunch. So people took off the wall.
John Morellis is
Yeah.
asking to paint the dog licking your head. Earlier today I posted one of Sally's dogs. I was sitting down, the dog came up behind me and just started licking my head. So I posted the video. I went live and I just sat there while the dog was licking the top of my head. So
Now, when you go live, how do you do that? You can do it on your website?
yeah, well, I have. This is a separate. Yeah, you can do it on your
Right.
page, but this is a separate Tuesday Night with Tony page. But you hit the icon to post a status, and then it gives you the option. Do you want to post a photo? Do you want to go live? Whatever it is.
So if you hit
that's
go
all we
live,
do.
all of a sudden you're live.
Right. It gives you like a little countdown, right? 3, 2, 1 or something, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's it. And that's
It would be mostly sleeping on the couch.
some people would want to see that. You can play Dead or Alive, every few minutes when you wake up or something. But did anybody happen to answer the Vertrano question?
No, he's still around.
Yeah, he's definitely still around? All right, so my apologies to him then for thinking he's dead.
His wife passed away a couple of years ago.
Well, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, his wife passed away.
All right.
Hilda. She was
Yes, Darren, yes, it is past his bedtime. We're almost done.
past my bedtime.
Yeah,
That's what he said.
Oh,
yeah,
of course, I was
yeah.
going to wear my pajamas here, but I don't wear pajamas.
There's the next painting for you, ladies and gentlemen.
That would be great.
Not a pretty thing.
Okay, now, as we do every week, we're going to do some rapid fire trivia questions, just random trivia questions that have nothing to do with anything. You guys can answer, and we'll go through all the questions before we let you know if you're right or wrong. I am going to ask you about one more teacher, though, before we get to it, because this teacher, for me, it was, I'm just dying to know if you had any stories, but did you know Mr. Lucci?
Dick Lucci.
Dick, was that his first name?
I think that was his name.
I think he mostly taught elementary.
Elementary school.
Yeah.
Well, I knew him from the Union.
Okay, because I had in 9th grade math, I had Mr. Conley.
Okay.
Right? Remember
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes. Very quiet man.
Yes, very quiet man. Good teacher though. But he had taken ill. I don't remember what the problem was. I don't think it was life threatening, and he did eventually come back. But he was out for probably a good 3 or 4 weeks. And we had this one old man. He looked like he could barely walk. It was Mr. Lucci, and he came in. And this man, one of the funniest men I've ever met in my life, would walk. And I had 9th period, or 8th period, whatever it was back then. But it was the last period of the day, so I would go home just in stitches, laughing. And one day I was telling my mother about this man, and I told her Mr. Lucci is his name. Also, my mother pulls out her 4th grade class picture, and that was her teacher.
So he was subbing at the.
I think he'd already retired, but they
yeah.
needed somebody long term, so he just stepped in. So I was just curious if you knew him, because that's.
Yeah, I knew him, through association, and it wasn't the teachers' union; it was the other organization.
Right.
Because he was active in that.
Okay, that which is good too. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Big union man myself. Okay, all right. So
Now, do we have to phrase our answer in the form of a question?
no,
No.
you can answer them any way you want.
Okay.
Paint the T-wing and sell prints. I'll buy one.
Oh, I got to tell you about the T-wing.
Gone.
Well, but what happened in the T-wing when they were going to knock it down? I love the T-wing. I went in the faculty room and I wrote something on the wall in the T-wing. Just a little farewell.
Right.
And don't you know, every teacher in the building came in, and by the end of the day, the wall was covered with comments and things. And the assistant principal, who was the Italian assistant principal, came in, and he was furious that we defaced. I mean, he totally missed the point.
Right.
It was homage that we were paying to the team.
Sure.
And it was the last day of school. They were going to knock them down the next week. And he held all of our checks on the last day. And we had to go individually to him to get the checks handed to us before we could be sent home. But the T-wing was the best place to be. It was cold. It was hot.
Yeah.
There were rats. There were. Oh yeah, it was. But it was a school within the school. Yeah, I love the T-wing.
Yeah, we actually did a show there.
Yeah, we did. We did a show a few months ago.
Yeah, just within October I think it was.
Yeah, we did a
And it was
murder
just
mystery.
it was just so weird to walk through that. I think it might have been the first time, definitely with at least 25 years, first time for me being in that building. So it was just weird walking through there. But then to walk down there and not have the T-wing, that was weird. Yeah. And just being in that building was odd, but lots of memories. And I put my hand through the cafeteria door. I think it might have been John Donovan was chasing me through the cafeteria, and I went to run out of the cafeteria. I had the little window in the middle of the door, so instead of pushing the door open, me with my great aim and great, I put my hand accidentally through the window. So I was thinking about that. I still have scars on my hand from it and blood all over the place. And remember the little custodian guy with the hearing aid?
Yes.
I don't remember his name. Bob?
Bob.
Was it Bob?
Yes, it was Bob.
I remember this.
How did you remember?
I don't know.
He used to smoke a pipe.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We used to, yeah, it was Bob, and then the other guy was
Charlie.
with the Elvis sideburns.
He's in the book. He's in the book.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is. He's in the book.
But Bob, he got mad that I broke the window, so he turned the hearing aid off, so he couldn't hear me apologize. I tried to apologize to him. Okay.
Who's Mrs. Katz? Katz. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, Lori asked about that. I don't remember her.
Don Schroeder is asking, how was Florida? Eric is asking if this is the auction for the couch. What the hell are you talking about? Okay. All right, so we're going to do some rapid fire trivia, and then we're going to get out of here. All right. Some questions, they have nothing to do with anything. Some questions may be picked in hopes that, that Mr. Scalia might, be able to answer some of them. Okay. The first question is an English question, English teacher.
Okay.
The word with the maximum number of definitions in the English language is... Did that come out right?
What?
The word with the maximum number of definitions.
In the English language.
Like a word that has, like, multiple
Definitions, yeah.
definitions.
Can we get hints?
It's a very short word.
He's pretty cheap with the multiple
Well,
choice.
it could be like
Talia.
I.
No, it's not I. Fart is not right either, Eric. Sally, you go to Cindy loved Mr. McGinnis. He was from the high school.
Yes.
Oh, I
Well,
love
I loved him too.
I
He's
loved
gone.
Mr.
He's
He
McGinnis.
gone.
started at the junior high.
Oh, did
and
he?
He went up to the high
He
school.
was great. I really loved
He's
him.
gone.
He had
He
ALS.
was very sick for several years.
ALS.
I used to see him because he
Oh,
used
is
to
that what he had?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he did Long Island Theater. He
Right.
would do shows, so I used to see him
He was a very funny
around.
man.
Oh yeah, he was great. I liked him a lot.
Scott Crosby thinks it's shit.
It is not shit, but actually he's the letters. He's actually kind of close.
Well, Eric Shevlin says
This-
scum.
No, it's not scum. No, it's not this. All right, I will tell you it has 464 definitions. I'll tell you that much.
Snow.
Incorrect. Snow.
No, there are 424 words for snow in the Eskimo language.
That's what I was thinking.
What is the shortest complete sentence in the English language?
Go.
No. All right, one more English question.
Wait, what is the... Oh, wait, you gotta wait for them. to
Yeah, I'm
answer.
gonna do all the questions and then I'll
Okay,
go back.
Okay.
Jeanette Teplin, your phone is dying. This was great. Thanks for your time, all you guys. Thank you. Scott Crosby saying Jesus wept. What does that mean?
Maybe the shortest sentence.
Oh, what? No. All right, one more English question. What word is the longest word in English with all of the letters in alphabetical order? When you spell the word, it's in alphabetical order.
The alphabet?
Well, that's not a word.
It's the alphabet should be. Unless you
Well,
do it
yeah, what was
backwards.
that? Right.
And
Was
like
it,
this is this. What is
wasn't it on Sesame Street? Didn't they make a word out of it? Didn't Big Bird used to say it? Okay. All right. So when shortest queue. Can I go to the bathroom, Mr. S? So shortest question. Christine Guerra. She got the shortest complete sentence. She got it right.
What is it?
I am.
I am is 3 letters.
No. The complete sentence.
Yes.
The shortest complete sentence.
Go is a complete sentence. It's a command, and it's only 2 letters.
You know what? Somebody wrote go, I think. But that's, when I looked it up, that wasn't it.
Where did you look it up?
Google.
That's where everybody looks stuff up now.
It's not like I remembered it.
You want to buy a dictionary?
Yeah, so you're right, though. Go would make sense. All right. Moving on from English, when I told Mrs. Scalia I was going to put some questions together, he said no music questions because he stopped at
Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles.
Paul Simon trivia. Who was Paul Simon's wife?
Carly Simon.
Mrs. Simon. Who was Paul Simon's previous wife?
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Very good. I knew you'd get that one. Paul Simon wrote and starred in a motion picture. Name the picture.
Starred starred in a motion picture.
Wrote and starred in a motion picture. It's not that good of a movie,
I
I've
don't
seen
think I.
Okay. Sheryl Crow, no. That's incorrect, Don. Okay, so now we have some Brooklyn questions.
Okay.
Grew up in Brooklyn. Neil Diamond, Barbra Streisand, and Beverly Sills all attended what Brooklyn high school?
Erasmus.
Nice. How many bridges in Brooklyn?
5.
Moving on. True or false? The Three Stooges were from Brooklyn.
True.
Eric, I'm not reading your response, you jerk. No, Bobby Sen says 5. Eric Shevlin says 3. Now Bobby Sen saying 7. You're all wrong. Oh, Eric Shevlin just got it right. Four bridges in Brooklyn. 4. Okay, last question. Another true or false? The first and largest battle of the Revolutionary War was fought in Brooklyn. True or false?
Yes.
That is true.
Yes, it
Which
was.
shocked me. I did not know that. Okay, let's see.
Brooklyn Heights.
Okay. Oh, Kevin Greasaver's watching. Hey, Kevin. Not you, Kevin. Okay, so let's see if anybody got any of these right. I looked the questions up on lamejackass.com.
Who said that?
Bobby said that. Okay. The word with the maximum number of definitions in the English language is the word set. S-E-T, set. 464 definitions. So, according to Google. Let's see. I am was the English language question. The longest word in the English language where, when you spell it, the word is in alphabetical order. The word almost. Why are you guys still naming bridges? We already said it's 4. Right. Yeah?
Well, they're in alphabetical.
Well, they are, yeah.
Right.
I mean, Paul Simon's wife is Edie Brickell. You remember that song she had in the 80s?
Mm-mm.
What I Am is What I Am, and yeah, you know if you heard it. You know what I'm talking about? No? Okay.
No.
Paul Simon wrote and starred in a motion picture called One Trick Pony.
I know the title.
Yeah? Yeah, 1980 or 81.
Yeah.
Erasmus, you got right. 4 bridges in Brooklyn. The Three Stooges were not from Brooklyn. That is false.
Where were they from?
Philly.
Oh.
And then the Revolutionary War question you got correct. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. This is Joe Scalia. Let's do this again. Here we go. The book is UFSD 71.
That stands for Union Free School District 71. The opposite of Hicksville, which was 17.
And yeah, this might look familiar to you, this picture. It is available on Amazon, but if you give it a few more weeks, you can find it at
JosephEScalia.com. Lowercase, no space. Hey, that's all right.
Yeah, Eric, don't yell at me. I said that you got it right. When you said 4, I said you were right. Don't yell. Ann Clark Turk says habit, meaning what? You already have the book?
She got it, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she told me today.
I have one of your books. I have Tales from Brooklyn. Is that?
Brooklyn Family Scenes.
Oh, sorry. I was close.
But you got the Brooklyn part, right?
And it's autographed. It's autographed.
That's right. You bought that at the Art in the Park.
I did.
I remember.
I did.
When you came and apologized to all of your teachers, I remember.
I saw Miss Greenberg.
Checking over is her name now, but she was Greenberg.
I had her for French, and I was 7th grade, and I just wasn't getting French. It was just completely going over my head. I was lost, so I stopped going, and I went to Mr. Wayne, the guidance counselor, to get switched out. He wouldn't switch me out, and I just stopped going, and it was a pain. I was a pain in the ass. I was a real pain in the ass of that poor teacher. So yeah, I saw her there, and I went right to her. Luckily, she did not remember me, which I was happy about and shocked about, because I was a real pain in the ass to her. But it wasn't her personally. I just hated the French class, and I just wanted to get out of it. And All right, that's my story.
She's in that picture too, that photo of the
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
on the right hand side.
Eric says he hates me. Thank you. Zach, where is Zach? He says he's not here. Okay, let's see. Next we bin Mr. S and Jimmy Haas together. All right, yeah, maybe we'll do that one day. We'll bring in Mr. Scalia and Jimmy Haas. That would be ugly.
I was out to dinner with them. I took him and his wife and.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw the picture on Facebook.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Okay, so yes, you can find the book, and I'm assuming all your books are there.
On my webpage, yes. On Amazon as well.
Okay, super.
And if you don't want to carry it, you can get it in the Kindle edition. So,
Oh, nice.
and it's cheaper.
Okay. So again, that's our show. Next week, we're sticking with this Hicksville theme. This year, 2018, is the 30th anniversary of my high school reunion. Of graduation, sorry. So we're having a reunion in the summer. So some of the guys from the reunion committee are going to be on the show with us next week. That is George Kasubas, that is Joel Horvath, Joe Gonzalez, John Fable, and if there's any other you Hicksville guys who want to join us, you're more than welcome. Email me and I'll give you the details. That'll be a lot of fun.
I remember John. He was in my class. John Fable.
John Fable, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he moved to Hicksville in 9th grade.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Joe Gonzalez, so I've known him my whole life. It'd be good to see him. So we'll have some fun next week, and we'll be making fun of teachers probably, but we won't be making fun of Mr. Scalia. He was one of the more popular teachers, well-loved teachers.
I was hot.
That's right.
You're still hot.
Wow, it's 10:22. Wow, I just saw that you watched that. Thank you so much. This
Thank
is fun.
you.
This is
This was
great. So yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday at 9. Tuesday night with Tony. Feel free to look up Knockin' Dead Comedy. It's a new year. We got a bunch of shows coming up. You can check out our schedule on our website. Go to our Facebook page. You can see what we got coming up. We got a lot of great things coming up. What? Gross Sally. What did you do? Oh, John moved in 7th grade. Okay. Knockin' Dead Comedy. Look us up. We do fundraisers, private parties, corporate events. You name it, we do it. Comedic murder mysteries, game shows, custom comedy shows, you name it. And we're available for emceeing and hosting and acting jobs and whatever you need. KnockinDeadComedy.com, and we're on Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. And yes, and Sal Couture quit. Yes. With Sal Couture, he had to leave us after 14 or 15 years, and we're constantly making fun of him, so that's why. All right, you guys don't care. Tuesday night at 9, we'll see you next week with George and the guys. Check out Mr. Scalia's website and get his book. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the comments. And please continue to like the page and to like our live streaming and share them and spread the word and tell everybody you know about it. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you.
Good night.
See you guys.